Well, hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Joanne. I am the learner lawyer. I am a law student from Australia. And if you think that I look a bit rough, yes, I've got COVID. I'm just trying to deal with all of that at the moment. So I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right. I just feel like I want to throw up all the time, which isn't great. But yes, we're doing the best that we can. So I'm not going to be on for long, because I actually wear out very quickly, but I'm doing all right. So I hope you're well. So there's been some reaction to this motion to compel that Chrisley filed. I want to have a quick look at that, but I actually want to spend a lot more time looking at the evidence that was given by Amy Brown yesterday in the New South Wales Parliament, because it was very, very damning and very, very worrying, and I'm very concerned by it. So I'm a bit angered by it. But look, we want to look at some stuff first. So we know that yesterday there was a motion to compel that was put forward, and we also so I wanted to have a look. So I'm going to share my screen here, and we're going to just have a look at her Twitter. Now, I'm actually in incognito mode because I'm blocked. So I don't have any sub accounts or anything. So I'm just doing it as public, incognito. I'm just making it up front. I don't use, So here we go. So most of her posts are restricted. Oh, you can't see it. Might help if I put it on. Told you, I'm all over the shop. It is a nice day and the sun is shining. It's a little bit chilly, but I haven't been able to get warm, to be honest. Yesterday I was in bed with 5 layers of clothing on and multiple blankets. I just couldn't get warm. But anyway, so what happens is whenever there is an issue, she comes out and she starts talking about other people. How am I feeling? I'm really tired, plan to create, and I feel really ill. I just feel really nauseous, actually. And it's funny. It reminds me back to and I can't stand food, although yes, they had a hankering for wicked wings from KFC. So my vegetarian daughter went and got me a snack, one of those snack boxes with 2 wicked wings and some chips, and that did me. And then last night I had a custard Danish. So I just want really weird food at the moment. So anyway, so this is what she posted. Charlotte on the web spends so much time looking into lawsuits against me, which are frivolous and baseless, but has more dirty laundry than me. She's got, goes after my parenting. I can't. For the record, Charlotte pulls my records from the court. I did the same for her. So don't come at me at doxing when she does this to me all day. So, and then she goes, now this is what's got me filing a second motion to compel when you've already filed a motion to compel and there is already a hearing scheduled. I honestly can't. Guess it's time for us to start asking for discovery from them and all the people they've been speaking to about us and financials. Wouldn't it be hilarious if we asked for depositions from all the caterers who are in the ear of a certain someone? Now, from what I can work out, and please let me know if I am having a moment, I don't believe that there is I believe there was only one motion to compel that's in the court, and that was the one that was filed the other day. From what I can work out, there is the original claim. There's KJ's motion to dismiss with a counterclaim. There's Chrisley's motion to dismiss counterclaim. There is a joint discovery schedule, and now there is a motion to compel. That is my understanding of what's been filed. Please let me know if I have that incorrect. I'm happy to be wrong. I'm more than happy to be wrong about that, because that's my understanding of what's in the court. So as I said, let me know what's going on. But that is my understanding, and my understanding is on the 20th of July that they will be dealing with KJ's motion to dismiss, KJ's counterclaim, whether it will be approved, Chrisley's motion to dismiss counterclaim, and they will be there also dealing with the motion to compel. So there doesn't need to be any further court dates. So that is my understanding. As I said, if I'm wrong, please correct me. I'm happy to be wrong. I'm more than happy to be wrong. But I just find the whole thing to be really, really bizarre. I don't know why she's putting out this story that there is already a motion to compel out there. I know that they amended discovery. They amended the discovery schedule. And I know that they had an extension, that they had requested an extension. And we've seen all the documents that were submitted to the court yesterday. We know that KJ's lawyer said that KJ believes that the case is frivolous and meritless, which I find to be really interesting, because I actually thought that it was the lawyers that came up with whether it was frivolous or meritless. I didn't realize that it was up to the actual defendant to decide that, because of course the defendants are going to say this is frivolous and meritless. But we'll see what the court decides. It's almost going to be worth sitting up all night to watch it, to be honest with you, as long as somebody has the popcorn going. But as I said, I don't believe that there is already a motion to compel on file. I just am finding that hard to believe that is there. So yeah, the 20th of July is going to be. Oh, there is another hearing. Oh, there's another hearing. Oh, look at this. So we've got a motion hearing on the 20th of the 7th. It's the 20th of July at 1:30 p.m. We also have a motion hearing on the 1st. See, I look at that and go the 1st of January, because I'm from Australia, right? We do our dates differently. On the 1st of August, there is another motion hearing. So they've not actually come out and stated what's going to be heard on what, but we now have 2 motion hearings. So it's likely that the motion to compel might be on this one. So anyway, that's what's going on. It's very confusing. So we now have 2 dates on the Chrisley matter. 2 dates, and we've looked at the proposed order or document. So that's for the motion to compel. So see, I'm looking at stuff as you're seeing it. So I'm just going to check this, because I haven't heard that. There's been any decision. It's still under advisement. I mean, that still could take ages yet. It really depends on what Her Honor wants to look at. I mean, hey, she's, maybe she wants to watch the lives to see whether she does get drunk and what she does. So I don't know. But for me, the thing that is really got me worked up at the moment is this, our mate Barilaro. So I'm going to show you a couple of snippets. So this is Channel 9. It says extraordinary revelations have been revealed about the chain of events that led to Barilaro landing a $500,000 proposal. Now let's watch this.
Revelations today about the chain of events that led to John Barilaro landing a $500,000 posting in New York. A key public servant telling an inquiry she was instructed to unwind contracts, including for the job that eventually went to the former Deputy Premier.
Now, isn't that interesting that she was told to unwind the job? Now, there's some really damning stuff in this evidence that somebody has to explain.
Brand new New South Wales.
Can you hear that? I hope you can hear that, because I don't know. As I said, my brain's all mushy at the moment, so I'm hoping you can hear that. Let me try this one. Hopefully this works better.
Trade job in the Big Apple, a job that was first offered to a senior female executive. But today, a parliamentary inquiry outlined how Jenny West lost the gig and John Barilaro ended up getting it.
She was verbally offered the role, and then I was given a direction by government to cease the recruitment due to a change in government policy.
Now what's interesting is that the reason why she didn't get the job was because she didn't have experience with dealing with politicians. That was her only downfall. But yet somebody with a Cert 4 in whatever apparently was more qualified. This woman had worked in investment and trade, had worked in the department, highly qualified.
Direction by government came from who? It was a decision of government. It would have come through the responsible minister, being the Minister for Industry and Trade, so John Barilaro.
The public
I love it how she said that very quietly.
servant in charge of handing out the job independently gave evidence she was worried Mr. Barilaro may have thought he had powers he didn't.
I was concerned that the Deputy Premier's office would feel they had veto rights.
In August 2021,
Now let's have a look at this timeline. Let's look at this timeline.
after an exhaustive recruitment process, executive and public servant Jenny West was told verbally she was successful and would be going to New York City.
Did you ever contact her to congratulate her for getting the role? I did.
A couple of weeks later, Mr. Barilaro's office as Deputy Premier asked Investment New South Wales if they could change the way these trade postings were filled.
Can anybody smell a rat?
I was asked what are other mechanisms by which they could be employed, including ministerial appointments.
John Barilaro was one of many who argued in Cabinet that they, as ministers, should appoint the trade commissioners, not public servants.
Well, there you go.
Cabinet agreed, and Jenny West's contract was torn up.
An instruction to me to unwind all contracts for those yet to commence. She was extremely upset about that, understandably so.
Barilaro announced his resignation from politics a couple of weeks later.
I said at the time there was something in it. Can you remember that I said that there was something more to it? There had to be something more to it. Because you just don't, the whole defamation with Friendly Geordies and Google just didn't make any sense. If you remember at the time, I said there's something else going on here. A rat the size of an elephant? I think so.
Officially leaving Parliament in December. He then told his colleagues he wanted the New York trade job.
Minister Ayres mentioned casually that Mr. Barilaro might apply.
He applied in January and was given the job in April.
Yeah.
What I can tell you is that he was the first ranked candidate against the criteria.
John Barilaro has signed a 3-year contract worth around $500,000 a year. But regardless of the criticism, the public servants say he is qualified to do the job.
Knowledge of New South Wales industry strengths and capabilities, and having a strong network within government, industry and business.
And Chris joins me live. Chris.
Now, the interesting thing is, and I'm going to show you another video from Channel 7 because they show a snippet of the actual hearing. And what is interesting in this is that she thought there was no issue with the fact that he's not supposed to work in the public service for 12 months after he resigns as a politician. And she never questioned that. He resigns in December, gets a posting in April. Now, maths is not my strong point. I'm not very good at maths, but even I know that that's not 12 months. And so technically, he's ineligible for the job.
There were even more revelations today about just how much this job is costing taxpayers. Well, Peter, you wouldn't believe it. Nobody is actually doing the job yet, but the New South Wales taxpayer has forked out $905,000 to fit out the Manhattan offices of the New South Wales Trade Commissioner, who are also paying $88,000 a year to rent the office space. That's the best part of $1 million, and all we've got so far is controversy. Now, you won't speak to anybody senior in government who believes that John Barilaro can feasibly get on that plane. But, Peter, so far, he's digging in.
All right, Chris O'Keefe on Macquarie Street. Thank you.
So that's $1 million that they've spent so far in New York. It's better. I mean, what on earth does it need for $1 million? That's what I want to know. All right, so this is Channel 7. This is the Channel 7 one, and this, as I said, this is pretty. This one is damning. I mean, they've said this is damning. So let's have a look at this. And there's something right at the end of this.
There has been damning evidence over the John Barilaro job scandal as a public inquiry investigates his appointment as New York Trade Commissioner. A key public servant has been forced to admit it was Mr. Barilaro's office that ordered the plumb position be made vacant after someone else was given the job worth $500,000 a year.
Now, this is a man, don't forget, this is a man who alleged under oath that videos of him by Friendly Geordies ruined his reputation.
Amy Brown quietly walks out of a public hearing after defending the job she gave her former boss.
The other thing is, in my opinion, there was a huge conflict of interest in the fact that he was her former boss.
I welcome the opportunity to outline the facts involved in the appointment of Mr. John Barilaro. The Investment New South Wales Chief Executive conceding she had originally offered the position to someone else, but was ordered to retract it. That direction by government came from who? It would have come through the responsible minister, being the Minister for Industry and Trade.
It was?
Mr. John Barilaro, who resigned days later.
Now, the other interesting fact is that Barilaro, also rubber stamped her appointment, and she got paid $100,000 over the recommended pay rate. In my opinion, her job is untenable as well. She's got to go.
And has since applied for and been appointed to the plumb position.
Can you give us the reasons as to why we should not consider that to be a highly suspicious chain of events?
It's not for me to express an opinion. The senior bureaucrat telling the hearing almost $1 million has been spent already fitting out his office in the heart of New York, confirming a 3-year deal on a $500,000.
All right, so for all the US people, is that normal to fit out? Is that a normal? So to be in the middle of New York, to upgrade an office in the heart of New York is, $1 million, like average.
Salary, though denying there's also a $100,000 annual allowance. There's nowhere near that amount. John Barilaro has already signed his contract. Labor says that could mean he's eligible for a payout or even damages if his position is suspended or terminated.
At a minimum, he may be in a position to claim remuneration for the full 4 years of service, regardless of whether he actually does the job.
Now, that is scary, isn't it?
A job he's due to take up in less than a fortnight. Amelia Brace, 7 News.
Minister Barry.
Now, here we go. This is where we get the damning stuff. Okay, let's watch this. So this is part of the hearing. This is unedited. Well, I mean, this is straight from the hearing. So
Barilaro intervenes to get the process changed, causes the first candidate to have her role terminated. That decision is then reversed, and then 5 months later, he walks out with the job. Can you give us the reasons as to why we should not consider that to be a highly suspicious chain of events?
So let me just play that back again. Listen to that, the way that he puts it. You tell me.
Can you give us the reasons as to why we should not consider that to be a candidate to have her role terminated?
7 News.
Have a
to
listen.
Get the process changed, causes the first candidate to have her role terminated. That decision is then reversed, and then 5 months later, he walks out with the job. Can you give us the reasons as to why we should not consider that to be a a highly suspicious chain of events.
It's highly suspicious, in my opinion.
So it wasn't Mr. Barilaro's decision to unwind the first recruitment process. It was a decision of government.
He was the government. You had said earlier in your evidence that it had come from his office that he was responsible for.
As for the remainder of the events and how they unfolded, it's not for me to express an opinion.
But he gave him the job.
Can you understand why, given this is supposed to be an independent process, and we're assured it is, that the constant meetings with ministers, these informal approvals, the sense checks that you've referred to, the cancellation of the process, all this is leading to questions about exactly how independent this process is?
I do understand. The sense check with ministers was actually more with respect to the second rank candidate because they had no experience with government.
There you go. That's why she didn't get the job, because she had no experience in government. But she was good enough for the job before Barilaro interfered, allegedly.
And I was just a little bit worried about their ability to represent New South Wales on that basis.
You've been very specific about...
Oh! She was worried that... Wait on. She was worried that she couldn't represent New South Wales, but she'd already been given the job until Barilaro had told her to wind back the job. Right. But that wasn't a problem initially.
About when John Barilaro applied to this role, but when did you first become aware that John Barilaro might be interested in applying for one of these commissioner roles?
So Minister Ayres mentioned casually that Mr. Barilaro might apply.
When?
Yeah, no interference at all. Hello, without a lawyer. You're working? Okay.
When did that occur?
Well, the position was advertised on the 17th of December, and he applied on the 19th of January, sometime in that time, but I mean, we were all off on Christmas and New Year, so Mr. Barilaro applied for this job as a private citizen, and it's a public service job, so that is the frame with which But you are aware that ministers...
Right, here you go. Here is, to me, is the most damning part of this. This, to me, and this is why I believe her job is not tenable anymore.
Actually subject to some restrictions and protocols in relation to post-separation employment. You don't believe that this was an issue, given that he had resigned in October and was...
And don't forget, every employment place has a separation where you cannot work or work in a similar industry or for the same company for a period of time. That is standard practice. So we're not talking about anything that's not rocket science here.
Separation employment. You don't believe that this was an issue, given that he had resigned in October and was applying for this job in December?
Not that I or the Public Service Commissioner was alerted to or discussed.
Secretary Brown, you formerly worked for the DPC, did you not?
I formerly worked for Premier and Cabinet. Yes, I did.
You're aware that there is a ministerial code of conduct, are you not?
I'm aware, yes.
You're aware that that ministerial code of conduct says that no former minister can obtain a job in relation to any matter for which they had portfolio responsibility within 12 months.
So no job, he cannot work in the area of which he had a portfolio for 12 months. And guess what job he got? The one that his portfolio was. So let me just replay that back again.
Conduct says that no former minister can obtain a job in relation to any matter for which they had portfolio responsibility within 12 months.
I would need to take advice on that.
Well,
Well, you're in the doo-doo, my dear. You're in the doo-doo. You're in the doo-doo. Closing your eyes isn't going to save you, my dear. Sorry, I'm really being really harsh here.
invited to take advice on that. That is a point that the Premier has himself identified. What steps did you take to ensure that the Minister's application wasn't prohibited by grounds of the Premier's own ministerial code of conduct?
It was for the previous Deputy Premier, then private citizen, to satisfy himself that he had complied with all obligations under his
previous
Indeed.
and continuing ministerial code of conduct.
I agree with that, Secretary, that the obligation is on Minister Barrow.
Correct.
But surely, with the Public Service Commissioner and others involved in this process, no one said to you that this minister was directly responsible for these roles. He's now taking these roles. At first instance, at least, that's prohibited by the Ministerial Code of Conduct. No one brought that to your attention.
So the role is actually prohibited. I wonder whether they could actually do. I wonder if the way they could get out of it was because of the fact that it was a breach of ministerial standards, that the contract is void.
No one brought that to my attention. Can I just check, was it brought?
And to me, while it was part of Barilaro, I think for her, due diligence, she needed to be aware of that. And she admitted that she worked in the Premier and Cabinet and that she knew that there was ministerial standards. To me, she's dropped the ball on this as well. As I said, and she's getting paid $600,000 a year. Barilaro increased her pay. So for that amount of money, this is not a mistake you should be making, in my opinion.
To the attention in the interview itself with Mr. Barilaro? No, it was not.
Was Mr. Barrow ever asked about whether or not he was complying in the selection panel?
Not to my knowledge.
Did you make any inquiries as to whether Minister Barilaro took the advice of the Parliamentary Ethics Advisor, as he's required to, as to be fair, all members of Parliament are required to do, before they take a job?
I did not inquire with Mr. Barilaro as to what steps he'd taken to satisfy himself as to his obligations from when he was previous.
She's trying to put the blame onto him, but remember, she made the appointment.
Previously a minister.
But Secretary Brown, do you accept that given the moment you sign the contract, you're validating the fact that it's an appointment that legally can be made?
Yeah, now listen, they've got her here, but she's got no idea how to answer it.
That it's an appointment that legally can be made? That's a stretch.
Yeah.
Do you wish to take advice on that?
No. Yeah. I mean, it's a offer to take a certain role with Investment New South Wales, between Investment New South Wales and an individual. It is not verifying everything that happened prior to that moment in time in somebody's previous personal and professional capacity.
She's really digging down here and trying to cover herself. But the fact is, she stopped the ball. Well, I mean, I'm of the opinion that he owes Google back their money, because it would seem, allegedly, that everything that Shank said in those videos could have been corrupt. That's what it looks like. How else do you explain it? The fact that he walked into the way that this was done. There has to be corruption involved in this, allegedly, in my opinion.
I don't think that's what signing an employment contract entails, but I'm happy to take advice.
Sure.
I wanted to press this question about the conflict of interest. You made in the previous round of recruitment for Sticks, you had indicated that you had a tangential relationship with someone.
Now, this is my other issue, is that she never actually declared in the round of interviews that he was her former boss. I think, again, she's messed up. And for me, she can get out of this if she says, yes, I've messed up and I've made a mistake.
That you hadn't worked closely with them. Did you make a similar declaration before you interviewed Mr. Barilaro? No, because I didn't make a declaration the first time. I don't make declarations because I have worked with people in the past. I know in the case of PwC, there are over 600 partners.
In case of John Barilaro, he'd been your boss.
I did not make a conflict of interest declaration because there was no personal benefit to be obtained, and he was not my boss. That mischaracterises the relationship between the agency head and a minister to whom they are accountable. But Ms. Brown, you know that a conflict of interest declaration is much broader than just a personal interest, as you did when you, for noting in the previous interview round, said that I might have known these people in the past. Well, of course I knew Mr. Barilaro in the past. I was with the Public Service Commissioner, who knows the structure of the public service, and that he was the Minister for Trade and Industry. But Ms. Brown, you have just said that you didn't insist on Mr. Barilaro completing his own declarations, but you could have made your own about a conflict of interest declaration. But there was no conflict of interest, so I did not
and Katharina Lowe, who is the Public Service Commissioner. Hopefully you'll call her and she can talk to that point.
So she's doubling down. Maybe we need to take YouTube to it. I'd say so. Yeah.
With respect to Mr. Barilaro's...
As I said before, there's not been anything done by Friendly Geordies about this issue. This is all mainstream media stuff, and this is his own actions and conduct that has got him in the spotlight at this point in time. This is why we've got the problem. It's got nothing to do with a YouTube video. This is his own actions and conduct that's doing this. And as all the Americans have said, all my American subscribers, they don't want him. They didn't ask them.
Cost of living allowance that's been included in his contract. So while the information of contracts is private and confidential, I can confirm the cost is less than $16,000. I need to correct the...
Thank you. Please proceed. Yep.
I wish I'd known that when I said marginal, because that is an accurate description. 9th of June is actually when he signed his contract. I said it commenced on the 20th of June, which is true, but he signed it on the 9th. And then the fit-out cost for our New York office, it was $905,000.
US or Australia?
AUD.
So there you go. What do you make of all of that? That is pretty, as I said, Channel 7 called it damning evidence over John Barilaro's job scandal. I think it's damning evidence. I mean, so between Katie Joy and Barilaro, we've got who's on popcorn duty is what I want to know. The other interesting thing that is coming out at the moment is particularly about Amy Brown is that they're saying that she's a Christian and all of that stuff. To me, that's irrelevant. And my only response to that would be that as a Christian, I would have thought that she would have ensured that everything was done with integrity and honesty and above board. So, and the fact that that hasn't calls into question all of that. So, yeah, I don't know, because I'm a Christian, and I make sure that everything that I do is, you know, I try and live my life honestly and with integrity. And if I make a mistake, I admit to it, and I think that's really important. So the fact that she's doubling down, I mean, I'm just saying, you know, everyone's saying, you know, because she's a Christian, it's, you know, a bad thing. But for me, I'm saying that don't class all Christians like that. You know, even the way that I cover all of this stuff, you know, I try to do it with integrity. I mean, it's a bit hard because it is, you know, I call it out as I see it. But I'm just baffled by it all. I don't think that for me, I would have thought that would have meant that she was not corruptible or was not easily swayed by dodgy stuff. But anyway, you know, and I'm wrong about that. So it's going to be interesting. It's definitely going to be interesting. But yeah, I'm interested to see what everybody thinks about it. But yes, I just find it all to be baffling. So you also would have noticed yesterday when I read through the court documents for Chrisley, I did go through a section quickly because they had full names of people. And I know that it's all over Twitter, but I'm not calling that out. Somebody said, in fact, I agree with, this is, I'm all over the place. Sorry, I'm all over the shop today. This is a really good point here. If Barilaro cared about anything other than himself, this is a tweet. Wait on. If Barilaro cared about anything other than himself, he would have withdrawn his application by now. He seems determined to get as far away from New South Wales ICAC as possible. And if he does get on the plane to New York, it'll be the last we see of him. It's like he's on the run. And then someone says, on the run at our expense, living the high life at our expense, living the American dream at our expense, with nothing in return for the taxpayer, for the cost. Very bad value for money. Even David Elliott is saying it shouldn't be happening now. The internal polling must stink. And now David Elliott is a Liberal minister. And the Libs have formed. So it's interesting, yes, because we know that ICAC's looking at him. So if he gets on that plane and there is nothing allegedly to stop him from getting on a plane in 2 weeks' time and starting his job, he's due to start in 2 weeks' time. So, and I agree with that. If he had any ounce of decency, in my opinion, he would withdraw his application. The other thing was, she was also asked whether she had thought about cancelling the contract, and she said no, she hadn't cast her mind to that, and that to me speaks volumes as well. Surely it has to be put on hold until this issue is sorted out. So anyway. All right, well, that's all I've got. I know I've been all over the place. I apologize. If you're on the replay crew and you've understood all of this, you get a gold star. I need to bring back the gold stars or the stickers again, hey? You're doing really well. And well done. But yeah, so as I said, I apologize. I'm just all over the place. My head's now throbbing, so I need to finish up. But thank you for watching. Please tell me what you think in the comments below. Please let me know whether I am correct that with my Christie filings that there is no first motion to compel filed. And second of all, what do you make about this Barilaro stuff? We know Barilaro, we we love Barilaro because he gives us talking points. So thank you, Mr. Barilaro. But I tell you what, it really makes his testimony at in the Google case a bit of a farce, actually, when he said he just wanted to just get on with life and not live in the public spotlight and scrutiny and live life as a private citizen. Right. He knew all of this was happening at the time that he gave his evidence. As I said, to me, I wonder whether there is any recourse for that. I know that Google didn't actually file a defense, but in light of all of this stuff, some of the stuff that was alleged against him, particularly regarding corruption and looking after his own, it would seem to be yeah. Now, just finally, I mean, Twitter is hot on this point. Why does New South Wales government even have 6 or more trade commissioners at all? Isn't it the role of the federal trade commissioners already in place? What have these New South Wales government trade positions ever achieved except major expense for the public purse? Now, Pod Carr, he was a former he was a premier, former New South Wales premier. Then when he said, I never created such a job when I was premier because I knew an expensive New York office won't deliver a single new trade contract or dollop of investment. Savvy US businesses will make its own decisions, not listen to a retired hack spruiking payroll tax concessions. Expensive joke. So that's what a former premier has said about the role. And I think that that's really telling. So when his former party are all now digging the boots in and saying this is dodgy, so the next question that I want you to tell me in the comments is, do you think that Peretay's going to be the next premier that's going to have to face ICAC? So yeah, this is getting interesting. Is New South Wales going to need another new premier? So they're the answers I need questions to. Has there been, so Is my interpretation on the Crisley case correct? There's been no motion to compel up until the one that's just been filed. 2, the Barilaro appointment. Do you think that Amy Brown's position is tenable anymore? Do you think that it's dodgy? And yeah, just tell me what you think. So I'm looking forward to reading your comments. Look, I might get back online tomorrow. I don't know. It just depends on how I feel. As I said, I feel pretty yuck at the moment. And I'm in my pajamas, yes, I know. But anyway. So thank you for joining me. Oh, I've got a new chair. It's actually my daughter's old chair. She's moved out and she left her chair and it's got a footrest on it. So I'm loving it. I'm looking forward to hours of studying in this chair with the footrest up. So anyway, thank you for joining me, and I'll catch you all again next time. Make sure you hit like, do all the YouTube thingies for me, please. Help me out. And I'll catch you next time. Bye for now.